I'm so tired, you can tell. And you can also tell because I'm not wearing a dress in this video. I'm wearing a tunic and leggings, but it's below freezing today, which makes absolutely no sense since it is spring. And let's cook breakfast together while I quickly talk about what the critics are getting wrong with regards to the Tradwife movement, the traditional wife movement. Now, I believe that I'm particularly well placed in this community to talk about it because I'm not a very large content creator. People don't usually use my videos to critique, but I have experienced slow and steady and lasting growth since I started making videos in like 2018, 2019. And I've seen like the rise in criticism and the ebbs and flows that have happened like 2 to 3 times. And consistently, what I have seen has been the theme of what I'm going to talk about in this video in a more casual way and what people are getting wrong. Now, you all know I'm a big proponent of not responding to criticism, so I wouldn't normally do this. It's probably like the only time that you're going to see me respond, if not in like a Q&A type of style video to criticism. But I just think that it makes for interesting talking points. And yeah, so the first thing that I want to say about what the critics are getting wrong with regards to the traditional wife movement is I see many people saying, well, if they were traditional wives, they actually wouldn't be on the internet talking about being a traditional wife. And that is wrong because women and people in general, it is so healthy for them to have community, to socialize, to form bonds with other people, to share ideas. And what we are doing on the internet is just that, sharing our lives and bonding with other women in the comment section, just like receiving feedback, all that kind of stuff. You know, I've been doing this on my channel for a long time. The argument against traditional wives not being on the internet is kind of a stereotype. Like they expect many of these women to be Amish. No offense to the Amish community. Like alone in a house churning butter or something like that, which is just not realistic for mostly all women. And even those communities with those like hyper traditionally religious people, for example, they already have a built-in community. But for many of us, like myself, who are on the internet, we don't have that in real life because of the way that modern women live their lives, because of modern society. It is so hard to find another person who shares similar values. And also, I want to say that stay-at-home mom doesn't equal traditional wife. Traditional wife can work to a certain degree, have more of a flexible lifestyle. Go watch my video on what is a traditional woman to get a better idea. But I think a lot of people who might say like, well, in my community, being a trad wife is very common because there are a lot of stay-at-home moms. But that isn't the crux of what a traditional wife is. It is a value system. It's not based in hate, like the criticism that many trad wives receive, but it is different. Like I mentioned, I have many videos going over that on my channel that you can go through. You don't have to go through it right now. The other thing with like trad wives being online and like women content creators such as myself who position themselves as traditional wives is that they wouldn't really be traditional wives or like traditional women if they're bringing in an income from social media. Now, I am blessed that my YouTube does generate some ad revenue, but I will be 100% transparent. It is not a lot. The highest like CPM, or I forget the terminology, but like the highest number that a content creator in North America tends to receive on YouTube per 1,000 views is like $10. And that tends to peak in the seasons of November and December. So you can do the math on that and come to the conclusion that I do not make a lot of money on YouTube. And even if a content creator, like a traditional wife content creator, does blow up on the internet, there's the other argument that like it's a full-on job to be on social media. And this might ruffle the feathers of a couple people, but making videos is not hard. I have I have worked many different types of jobs, making videos. I understand that my videos in particular are not the highest quality, but I've never seen anybody in the traditional wife movement with like super, super professional, high quality videos. And so making a video doesn't really take much of your time, especially if you are somebody who does their makeup every single day or like lives this life and you just flop a camera. It is a little bit difficult in the sense of like your kids knocking over the camera, like my kids or like my baby on my back right now. But making videos is not that hard. And even if it is hard, people are allowed to have hobbies. It is good for people to have hobbies. And if your videos just happen to monetize your hobby, it is very similar to having an Etsy store or an apron shop, which many traditional wives do as well, which also goes back to what I was saying before about being a traditional wife is not necessarily just stay at home mom. Most of the time, like 95% of the time, it is going to be that because that is the goal, because of the value system of spending the most time with your children. But there are circumstances and like the economy right now that prevents that from happening. But that doesn't mean that just because you have to bring in some sort of other income that you are just barred from having traditional values. No, we make things work the best that we can. It is about what we are prioritizing in our lives as traditional women. And the last argument that I hear all the time about traditional wives, traditional women, is that we are setting women up for like poverty. I've seen the videos like Tradwife to poverty pipeline. This is also a very complex issue. But if you actually watch content by many women who call themselves traditional wives, like people cooking on the internet, which is beautiful and lovely in itself, but we do talk about red flags. We do talk about the importance of cultivating your skills. Just because you're a traditional wife doesn't mean that you don't have a set of skills that could be monetized and you don't have a support system that could be utilized if something bad were to happen. Actually, it is the opposite. If you are living with traditional values, you are creating a tight-knit family and a network of people who would help you in hard times. Also, even if you talk about just like the skills of cleaning, actually knowing how to clean, modern society looks at cleaning as like not a skill and doesn't require expertise, but it is. And this is why you can pay somebody like $100 an hour to clean your house, which is something that can be monetized. Same with childcare, learning how to homeschool, and even back to the concept of individual hobbies. You might have the extra time to cultivate an art that can be turned into an Etsy store or like even a full-on business if it had to be. When it comes to men, I mentioned there are so many videos on like red flags and how to properly choose a husband. And yes, there are situations where men in relationships can turn abusive. And so advocating for traditional marriages is not in a direct alignment with like advocating for abuse. You can be totally against abuse, helping women achieve their dreams of being stay-at-home moms, traditional wives, having kids, getting married, and sorry, I lost my train of thought. But like, be totally against abuse. Abuse is a predatory thing. It is something that even a modern woman with a job, and I actually believe that it sets women up for failure by stating that a job is the only way that you are going to position yourself to avoid abuse. Because that is not true. You could have a job and be just as likely to be abused as the traditional woman. There are other factors, not just pinpointing traditional wives and saying that the entire movement is horrible when it actually is not. No matter what you do in life, there is going to be risk. It is about being resilient, which I actually advocate for on my channel. Being a resilient woman is not just exclusively reserved for those who have careers. That is not the only way that you can be a resilient woman. And living your entire life just doing something that you don't want to do without any risk, and just shoving aside those women's desires because you're labeling them a certain way is detrimental to women as a whole. It's funny because I see many of these creators saying like, we just care about women, we just want to protect women, but I've never met
anybody who has been convinced through hatred, through mocking, to re-examine their lifestyle or consider alternative perspectives. If anything, you are shoving more women into anger, into the traditional wife movement. And another thing is that people who have traditional values are often intentionally dating, seeking other people who have traditional values. Many content creators who are being traditional wives, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, advocate for spotting red flags, for properly vetting. Traditional marriage is a beautiful thing. I have one. It is so lovely when two people come together and put their best foot forward, each having their own roles and coming together in a common mission.
So once again, apologize for my rough appearance. Just made some eggs. I forgot to make the bacon because I got on a tangent. Leave your comments down below, especially if you are a traditional woman. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.